Good morning. I hope you had a great Father's Day weekend. I know we did. We went up to Ohio and had a 4-day weekend with my son who turned 30 on Father's Day and my daughter-in-law and our 2 grandchildren. It was a great weekend. Loved all the time with them and just love being a papaw. It's a good life. As we were driving back, it's like a 5-hour drive back. Linda and I were talking about lessons we learned from our fathers. And I was telling a story about my dad. And all of a sudden I had this aha moment that I learned something from him and something I value today in my life that I didn't realize I really got it from him. And it was really a neat moment. And I want to share that with you today. So my dad, by profession, was a principal, elementary school principal most of his career. And but his passion, his real passion, was horse trading, is what he called it. Now, there was a TV show a few years back called American Pickers. That was very similar to what Dad would do. But Dad didn't just sell, antiques and collectibles. He also sold horses and cows and pigs and sheep and goat and trucks and trailers and anything. Land. He loved to buy land and sell land. So he loved to buy and sell. And he loved to get the deal. And he enjoyed that. It was just his passion. And so anytime someone came to visit us, we lived about 15 miles out in the country in Henderson County, and people would come drive from town or from counties all around to come see Dad. People knew about what he did and that he would get things, and people would come see him. And every time someone would pull up in the driveway, Dad would raise his hand and go, "Hey," and he'd do that, and he goes, "How are we doing today?" And he'd do that every time and welcome them with warmth. And he did that for everybody. And people would go around and they would look at throughout the buildings, or if maybe they wanted a pony, he'd say, "Hey, John, come out here." And he'd put me up on a pony. I'd be 7, 8, 6. Riding around on a pony just with a bridle bareback. And that was showing people that, hey, this pony's gentle, so your grandkid or your child can ride this. That's the life of a child of a horse trader. But Dad also, sometimes people would buy things and leave, or they wouldn't buy anything, they would leave, but sometimes they would just stay around and talk. And when that happened, we always had a pot of coffee, always going all day long, and Dad would say, "John, get us some coffee." And they go sit under the shade tree or maybe at the barn or wherever they were, front porch. And we'd get these styrofoam cups. We always had styrofoam cups. I would fill the thing with coffee. And as 7, 8-year-old kid, I'd be looking at it like, "Oh, don't want to spill it, don't want to spill it." And I'd walk out there. Sometimes I spill a little bit, but usually I got most of the coffee to them. And Dad would sit and I would stay and listen to the adults talk. What was interesting, the aha moment yesterday that hit me was my dad, when he was talking to these people, really only talked about probably about 25% of the conversation. So he would spend 25%, and they would do 75% of the talking. And he'd listen. And one of the things he did, and I remember it very clearly. I don't remember the subject matter, but I remember very clearly that he was curious about people. So when people would say something, he would ask them another question with a curious tone. So for example, some guy who said, "Well, my back's been hurting me." And Dad would go, "Really? Well, how'd you hurt it?" And then he would get them to talk about it. And they would talk about their back hurt. And then he would normally have some little funny story, short story that was funny or humorous, or would show that he understood what they were going through. And it was fascinating. And my whole life, people have told me, "Oh, I loved your dad. He was such a great man. He always encouraged me. Oh, he was a man of such wisdom." And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, he listened to people. And people, they would talk things out. And they would come to understanding, sometimes just talking it out with my dad. And maybe he would give a point of wisdom in the middle of that. And it was just so cool. So the lesson, we need to listen to people, right? Because every human being wants to be understood, valued, appreciated, seen. It's such a big thing. And we don't get it very much anymore these days because we're all sitting on our phones and we're all so distracted. But man, we could help a lot of people in our life, and we can make our lives better too. If we just, while we're having a cup of coffee, be curious, ask another question, listen, and show people that you genuinely care about them. Hope this helps you and gives a great Monday for you. Hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week.